Welcome to 2Cents FC. I'm your host, Amobi Okugo, back again with my guy, L. Each week, we'll be talking with individuals from around the soccer world, learning about their stories and getting their unfiltered thoughts and opinions. This week, we have a very, very special guest. I'm excited for you guys. MLS Executive Vice President and Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, Sola Winley. We'll be getting to know all about Sola, talking about his career, and learning more about his off-pitch endeavors. Sola, thank you so much for taking the time. We know you're a very busy man. How you doing today?
I'm blessed, Amobi, and L. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thanks for having me on.
Nah, most
Pleasure.
Let's start it off.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Two truths in the cap. So this is a icebreaker game that we like to play here with our guests. Sola, he'll tell us 3 facts about himself. 2 will be true, 1 will be a lie. And Amobi and I have to guess what the lie is. So whenever you're ready, Sola, take it away.
Okay, so the first one is I've completed a 200-hour yoga teacher training. The second is I was the teen angel in the play Grease in junior high school. And the third, I am a 10 handicap in golf.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I don't know much about golf and like how the handicaps work, so I can't really gauge there. I'm trying to see if I've seen something about yoga in my research.
Nah, I'm going. The cap is the yoga. I think he's currently in the process. He doesn't have the 200 hours yet. I'm going. His work in sports, a lot of networking, a lot of, corporate moves. I'm saying 10 handicap is plausible. Even though you're based in New York, man, how much golfing are you really doing? Yeah, that's my cap is the yoga. What about you, Al?
I wrote that.
Oh no, you can't.
No, I'm gonna roll with that one. That makes sense.
Gotcha.
All right, go ahead.
I'm terrible at golf.
Damn.
I rarely play golf, if ever. The last time I played golf was with my father-in-law, and the year before, in this tournament, he finished first with his foursome. I joined that foursome. They finished in last place. That's the last time I've ever played golf. My wife and I, we went on a yoga retreat to Rishikesh in India several years ago, and then on the heels of that, I came back and I did a 200-hour yoga teacher training with a yoga master by the name of Dharma Mitra here in New York City, and I practice yoga 5 or 6 times a week. So, and then I was the teen angel. I have picture proof. My kids laugh at me. They see me, I'm bald now. They see a big afro, white uniform coming down the stairs. I wish I had video of it. They could hear my voice. I could sing back then, not too much now. And so that was my crowning theatrical achievement.
Wow.
Man, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I would have never guessed that. Definitely want to dive into that yoga a little bit more. But when did you fall in love with soccer?
So I'm in the process of falling in love with soccer. When I started at the league, I had very little exposure to the sport and/or soccer culture. In fact, one of the first things that I had asked the folks was some forgiveness. I said, because I'm going to make a lot of mistakes when it comes to understanding the fundamentals of soccer. And I wanted to establish that right off the bat, that I didn't want to front like I had a whole lot of soccer bona fides. I wanted to respect folks that really have built that soccer culture here and have dedicated their professional career both on and off the pitch to soccer. And I really wanted to take the time, and I'm still taking the time to learn it. And so I'm in the process of falling in love with it. Once you go to one of our stadiums, you feel the electricity from the supporters. There's no other experience, in my view, in professional sports that's like that. The engagement, fans standing the entire time, is really a dynamic atmosphere. And I've been involved in sports for a long time. I started my career at the NFL when I was a young kid, 25 years old, and been to a bunch of Super Bowls and been blessed and fortunate to go a lot of big sporting events. And soccer and Major League Soccer is right up there. And then with the World Cup coming in 2026, it's going to be a galvanizing moment for this country and for this sport.
No, I love that. So for you, being new to the sport, I'm sure you have a lot of new terminology and a lot of different things. What were just some of your first questions at a soccer game?
First question, at a soccer game?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know what it meant, the whole offsides thing. It's like I'm used to offsides there being a line,
Mhm.
right? There's you're on one side and you're on the other, right? And now I think I have the flow of being offsides. But I had to learn everything, like all of the rules, just and what takes a while is the strategy, So
Yeah.
unless you're involved really in it, it takes a while to really understand the strategy, and it takes a while to understand the difference in skill gap, right? And once you spend time with it, you could really start to see those players and those clubs that distinguish themselves in terms of the skill level. You look at the team, the United States men's team. A lot of those players are Major League Soccer players, and the skill level is really just is really significant and special. It's great. It's great to see.
No, I love that. I want to ask you which stadium did you find best, but I don't want to get you in trouble with any other MLS team at the moment. You mentioned, you've been to a bunch of Super Bowls. You've worked in the NFL since as a young man. Give us your origin story. How did you get into sports in general?
Yeah, so I played sports growing up, and then at some point, I just wasn't good enough to compete at a higher level, right? So my playing stopped at high school, but I never
Mhm.
lost my passion and my love for sports. At the University of Connecticut, I was graduating. I really did wasn't sure what I wanted to do professionally, but I knew I wanted to do something in the sports world. So I wrote letters. At this time, it was like we had to type it out. It wasn't internet and email, and I had to or type it on a letter and fold it and put it in the mail. And I wrote letters to every sports league, every sports team, every sports marketing company, everyone that I knew that was involved in the sports industry, essentially sending the same message. I'll work for free for 3 months doing anything. I'll clean the windows, I'll sweep the floors. Just give me a chance to come in and prove my worth. I got back, 99 no's right out of 100, but I got back one yes. It was a small sports marketing firm here in New York. They had represented some sports marketing properties. One of those properties was called the Hampton Classic. It was a equestrian event from Hamptons, New York, and we had the rights to sell that property on television. And so that introduced me to the world of sports and sports media and packaging sports rights so that you can sell those, which I ultimately ended up doing while I was at the NFL internationally. I sold NFL games internationally for a couple of years at the NFL before I transitioned out. So that was really my start. And I worked for 7 years at the NFL, 5 years in the domestic area, and then two internationally. I'm sorry, 3 years domestic and then four internationally. And while I was at the NFL in the domestic area, I helped to create a program called NFL Flag. And it's a flag football program that is 5-on-5 youth-based flag football. We designed the rules for it, came up with the logo for it, rolled it out nationally and internationally. And I share that story because this past Sunday, I coached my 11-year-old son
Yeah.
in his flag football championship. Right, so this is a program I had created and was part of a team creating, 25 years ago. And now, fast forward, I have an 11-year-old son who happens to be transgender. We can talk about that. Coaching him on his team to a Super Bowl, it was a special moment in our family.
What a full circle moment, and definitely going to dive into that. That's an
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
story. When it comes to um, your journey, I would love to get any advice. You took a proactive approach for people that want to follow in your footsteps, especially young, African Americans. Any advice in terms of going after what you want in the sports business space?
Well, sports is one space, but let's just talk about career development in general, right? Is that you have to have the competency, right? That you have to be able to drive value for whatever organization and whatever industry that you're going to be a part of, right? So you have to develop a skill set, so competency, character, right? You have to have a character that fits with the culture of the organization that you want to work for. You have to have mentorship. and mentorship that from a wide variety of different demographic groups, right? So you need Black mentors, you need white mentors, you need Latin mentors, you need mentors who are women, allies who can give you different perspectives and different views is helpful. I'm a big believer in continuing your education as well, because we have to eliminate reasons for people to rule us out, right? Well, this person doesn't have this, or this person doesn't have that, right? And so we have to understand that we have to be able to level set the table and eliminate as much as possible, giving people proactive reasons to eliminate us from the conversation. So we have to have the credentials in place as well. Most importantly, however, we have to have an understanding of ourselves. What are our strengths, and where are the areas where we need to continue to develop? And that's critical, whether you are entering into an organization for the first time, or whether you're the leader of that organization. We're always learning new skills, and we have to continue to learn more about ourselves, or else we continue to repeat the same mistakes. And I have seen that happen again and again, right? So if I make a mistake, and we all make them, I'm quick to acknowledge it. I'm quick to apologize. I'm quick to say that, but that wasn't always the case, right? I've learned to develop that over time, because I have seen that it's effective when I'm working with my colleagues, right? That nobody wants to work with somebody who thinks that they're always right. And so, just to be authentic and be yourself, and know that you come to the table with a lot, but there's also a lot that each of us can learn from our colleagues, regardless of what our experience has been.
Classes in session. Ooh, I just wrote all that down. Thank you so much. I think that's valuable advice, not only for any young kid trying to come up, but valuable for, anyone. So appreciate you sharing. Let's shift gears a little bit. You're doing a lot of things in the sports business world. You transitioned, and then MLS comes calling. Talk about how it all came about in your specific role within MLS.
Sure, sure. So, I've known the commissioner for 27 years. He was my first boss at the NFL. So he hired me. We've maintained a relationship for close to 3 decades. When I left the NFL, I went into social. I went back to school to get my social work degree. So I'm a licensed clinical therapist as well. And I opened up a consulting practice working with individuals and organizations on leadership development, self growth, organizational dynamics, and built a successful practice. And I had that business for 15 of the last 20 years. 5 of those 20 years, I went to go work for a major media company, A&E Networks, who was a consulting client of mine, who ended up hiring me as their executive vice president of strategy and planning. And then I left there in 2018 and reopened and reestablished my consulting practice, and was very happy, with it. I had clients. Major League Soccer was one of my clients, and then COVID came, obviously, and then obviously the murder of George Floyd, which changed a lot for industry and the sports industry for sure. And so the league found itself in a position where they needed to hire a chief diversity, equity, inclusion officer. My background obviously wasn't traditionally in that space, but a couple of factors in my decision. First was my family. Right, I sat down, I talked with my family about it. I said, "This is what this is going to mean for us as a family, and I want your feedback." Right, this is a collective decision. And my kids were like, "Dad, you've always talked with us about doing good and helping people, and you've sort of, built your career that way. And this job sounds fun. So if you can do that and this, then, we would encourage you to do it." And so with their blessing, I engaged in conversations. And if it wasn't the commissioner and my respect for him and what he's been able to accomplish, I probably wouldn't have taken the role. At this point in my career, it really matters to me who I work for. I need to be able to respect them. And as I said, Major League Soccer was a client of mine for a couple of years, so I knew the senior leadership here. So coming on board, there was already some trust that was established, and so it allowed us to move a little bit faster. In my first meeting with our Black player group, probably 70 folks on the line, I'm sharing a lot of what I'm sharing now. I've known the commissioner for 27 years, running through the whole rundown. Think I have people in a pretty good place. And, one people raise their hands and they say, essentially, Shola, that's all good. We hear you. But, back in the day, some of us were in the field and some of us were in the house, and you're in the house. And so, how could we trust you essentially? And I said, listen, if I'm in your seat, I appreciate that. I appreciate the question. Trust is earned, and I'm going to just have to earn that through my actions with you. And I shared that with a colleague, a national civil rights leader, and they said, "How's it going, Shola?" I said, "That's been a long time since I've been in the seat where, on one hand, you can't be too black. On the other hand, you're not black enough." And that's the space often that senior black leaders find themselves in, is that we have to advocate for people, and we also have to be able to earn people's trust internally and externally. And that requires you to have a strong sense of self. You have to know who you are, right? And appreciate the fact that not everybody's going to like you, and not everybody needs to like you. But they do need to be able to respect and value what the role represents. And I'm here to represent change for the organization, and quite frankly, change for the industry, the soccer landscape. Requires there to be some systemic change that takes place up and down the value chain, from the way that we give out a coaching license, to the way that we develop our players, to the way that we market and tell stories about our players. We have a growing black soccer community. We need to do a much better job of harnessing that energy and that power and that vibe. I think we can do some of that. I'm not sure if you guys saw the exciting announcement that came out today with Apple. We have a 10-year partnership with Apple. Most innovative and one of the most respected companies around the world is now an exclusive partner with us, which opens up a whole host of opportunities in terms of storytelling and marketing, the way we package our game, the way we present our game, the announcers that we bring on board. So this is an exciting time to be involved with Major League Soccer and the sport of soccer in general in this country.
No, it's amazing, and we're excited. You mentioned the Apple deal. I got goosebumps off that. Just coming in the league 2010 to what you guys have done now in such a short amount of time. But when it comes to your role specifically as vice president of DEI, you touched on a number of different things that I definitely take to heart. The concept of sticking to the mission and the values of what you guys are trying to build, but also staying authentic to yourself, while also there's going to be a lot of different people that feel different types of way, and you can't solve everyone's problems, but you can do what you need to do. So it's a tough role, and you've been tasked with doing it. So can you give us a little bit more insight around some of the initiatives, some of the processes that you had to go through in your short time as at the head of the helm?
Sure, sure. So the first was just building trust with people, having conversations with them, building relationships, and we spent several months doing that. Right. So rather than coming in with an agenda, I really wanted to understand what was important for our owners, what was important for our players, what was important for our staff,
Mhm.
and those conversations allowed us to lay out a blueprint for the first year and what we wanted to accomplish. And it was a couple of things. One is we wanted to establish an environment of belonging internally within the league office. And that manifested itself through employee resource groups, our ERGs. We have 6 of them. We have Pitch Black, which is our Black ERG, Somos, our Latino ERG. We have a Pride ERG, or LGBTQ ERG, Parents, a Women's ERG, and then our Asian ERG, right? And so these communities are safe spaces for employees to come together, but they also are important vehicles for the organization to pressure test ideas, to get feedback on public statements, to help to educate and inform the organization and the enterprise on important moments in their respective communities. And so establishing this ERG infrastructure was a priority for us, and it really has paid tremendous dividends, both for the organization and for individuals. That was one. Two was establishing governance structures. And so we have a diversity committee that's comprised of 5 owners: Arthur Blank, who is owner, obviously, Atlanta Falcons, as well as Atlanta United; Dee Haslam, owner of the Cleveland Browns and the Columbus Crew; And then we have three other owners: Marty Edelman, John Ingram, and Jorge Mas. Our committee is unique in sports because it also includes non-owners. We have current players, so members from BPC are on that committee, as well as SCORE, the retired players group, and members from MLS Next, which is 13,000 of the most elite youth players, also have a governance committee for that program called the Equity Action Committee. They have a representative that's on our committee. So when you think about it, it's the entire ecosystem that's represented on this committee, right? So it's important for us to have a governance structure where we could vet ideas and then we can make recommendations through. So we have our own version of the Rooney Rule. There's been a lot of news about the Rooney Rule over the last several months. We've had an initiative in place since 2007. It was time for us to update that policy, so we did that. We organized a series of working groups and spent over 200 hours assessing our policy. Those working groups included the commissioner, included owners, included current head coaches, including Robin Fraser, who was at the time the only black head coach in the league. It included former and current players as well as league staff. 200 to 300 hours assessing the policy, seeing where we needed to enhance the policy. We made significant changes to it. We went from it being you had to interview one minority candidate to you had to interview and have in your final pool two candidates from an underrepresented group. One of those candidates had to be black. And that was important for us because 25% of our player pool is black. And so we felt it was important to have representation. And what we spent time talking about internally is the difference between diversity and representation and equity. And 25% of our player pool is black, but less than 10% of our coaching pool was black, right? So that, to me, created an opportunity for us. If you juxtapose that with our Latino coaching and player pool, 30% of our players are Latino, 30% of our assistant coaches are Latino, 30% of our head coaches are Latino. We didn't orchestrate it that way, it just happened to be that way, right? So we don't have a Latino player for Change Group, right? Organizing for a lot of more representation within the sport because they're adequately represented. And so we instituted a policy. The policy went into effect this year. And we'll see how we do at the end of the year. Right? We've made a decision to review the policy, and we'll make changes and modifications as we need to go along. So that was an important initiative for us. We also this past March announced a historic deal with the National Black Bank Foundation. It's the first time in sports and league history where there's been a commercial transaction exclusively with a consortium of black banks. At one point in time, there were over 50 black banks in this country. Now there are 18. A lot of this stuff I found out, since I've taken on this role. The first week in my job, I got a phone call from Bernice King. Bernice and I have a relationship that dates back a couple of years from just some consulting work I had done for the King Center. And she said, "Sola, I'm on the board of the National Black Bank Foundation. Will you meet with their leadership, see if there's anything that the league can do?" I said, "Sure." The next week, they flew out to New York. We met up in Harlem. My family has a church up in Harlem, and so it just worked out. It was convenient for us to do that. Turns out, Jackie Robinson had started a black bank in 1963, right on 125th Street, which I didn't even know, right? And so the co-chair of our diversity committee, Marty Edelman, used to be Jackie Robinson's lawyer, right? So you have all of these different pieces that are coming together, including the fact that Bernice King's grandfather helped to found Citizens Trust Bank in Atlanta, one of the first black banks and the lead bank in this transaction, in this deal. And during her father, during Martin Luther King's last speech before he was assassinated, he talked about a banking in movement and moving dollars to black banks in order to support black communities. So there's been advocacy in sports for a long time, and certainly in the King Center. And so it all sort of, within the King family, so it all sort of came together. And I felt that this was an opportunity for the league to lead. The commissioner bought into it right away. We worked on it for over a year. And we took a $25 million syndicated loan from the bank. We draw the entire loan down. And what that means is that banks make money on lending money, right? So I'll lend you $1, I'll make a couple of cents off of that. You multiply that by millions of dollars, This is millions of dollars of cash that goes directly into Black and brown communities. So mortgages, business loans, community development, lending money to other minority banks, all possible from transactions like the one with Major League Soccer, and really being able to demonstrate that the deal is possible. And that was a primary objective for us, that we want to remove barriers and we wanted to remove obstacles for people saying, well, we can't do a deal with Black banks because it's going to cost us more money. Well, we've proven that that's not the case. And since then, they've had a lot of deal flow that has followed. That was part of what our expectation was. And so we were really proud about that. And then, our Juneteenth initiative that we're rolling out in a couple of weeks, actually this weekend. Exciting. It's around a theme called Freedom to Be. We've commissioned a poem from Langston Hughes called Freedom. We hired a Black queer artist from Brooklyn, originally from Alabama. Her name is Judah Middleton, to design a box set for us. It's the second year in a row that we have commissioned an artist, and we'll auction off the jerseys. Last year, we raised $150,000. Black Players for Change is a partner with us in this initiative, and there's a BPC rep on every club, and they've identified an organization that the proceeds from the auction will go to. When I started at the league office, we had one Black vice president or above, and if we're going to be an organization that recruits the best talent, that retains the best talent, people have to see people that look like them at the top, right? So then you bring me in, now all of a sudden there's two. Fast forward a year, and I give credit to our HR team. We now have 9, right? Either through a series of promotions or hiring, 9 Black executives at the vice president level or above in a year. And so to me, that's significant progress. And that creates an environment where more talent can come in and more talent can thrive. And so we're just getting started, laying a foundation, but feel really good about the progress that we're making so far.
No, I love the transparency and you guys being proactive about all the different initiatives that you guys are doing. Big kudos to you guys for the bank announcement. I remember that when that first came out, we were in the group chat, me and Elle, like talking about, they're backing their words with action, and that's what it's all about. Being one of the first leagues across the board, not waiting for the NBA, not waiting for the NFL, and MLS is doing a lot of great things. I know I'll be part of one of the Juneteenth events this upcoming weekend, so it's exciting to see
great.
the collaboration with BPC. But one thing that I really love what you said is, being able to see where you want to go. Can you really quick talk about some of the initiatives or things that you guys are doing to help entice, Black players to move on to coaching or executive leadership? And it doesn't just have to be players; it could be just, Black individuals, both men or women. How are you guys making sure that in order to not only retain talent but entice them to come on board in MLS?
It's a great question, Amobi, and I give a lot of credit to my colleague, Dr. Jamil Northcutt, who also used to work at the NFL, who came over to the league several years ago to build out our player engagement area. And he's done a significant job,
Shout
and has
out
built out
Dr.
a
Northcutt.
he's built out a whole platform of programs, from fellowship programs to soccer upward mobility opportunities to getting players trained as scouts, and so a variety of different initiatives and opportunities. We have players who come and spend a day at the league as part of our league access program, and so whatever opportunities that we have to engage players, whether they are current or former players, we will do that. As part of our coaching development, we're in the process now of assessing what type of leadership development programs we want to put in place for future coaches, particularly since we have this policy, and to make sure that we not only have a pipeline, but that we're preparing them for interviews and preparing them for opportunities as they arise. So stay tuned on some of those initiatives that we'll be announcing in the near future.
Exciting. Thank you for that. And shout out to Dr. Northcutt. He's been amazing, not only for me personally, but for a lot of athletes within MLS. Whether you're African American or not, they do a great job. Him, Chidozie.
He's he's unique, right? Because sports, like a lot of industries, is transactional,
Mm-hmm.
and it's essential to have folks that are relational and relationship driven, and to make a difference in people's life. And
Exactly.
he's as good as they get in that regard.
Yeah. Can you talk about your partnership with the MBBF?
Yeah, so that's the National Black Bank Foundation, right? So they were
Okay.
our led by Ashley Bell and Brandon Comer, right? So these are two brothers who were, walking in some of the demonstrations and really feeling like they needed to do something, and
Okay.
they made a decision to start this foundation to represent these banks and to try to broker deals on their behalf. Ashley's a partner at Denton's, one of the world's largest law firms, and Brandon runs his own, financial capital company called Comer Capital. The fact that they did this, you got two guys who are, in my view, rebuilding the black banking infrastructure in this country. And so, however we can support that, we will look to do that.
No, I love it. I know we got it on our to-do list, L, to open up.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Hmm.
So I want to jump in real quick. I love everything that the league is doing for, um, black coaches to players and people within the league and trying to elevate from within. What are some ways that MLS is looking to engage the black community outside the league? Like, what types of initiatives or things are you guys looking to do to kind of bring more black people to the game of soccer? Because, as you mentioned before, you weren't traditionally a soccer fan. I think that's true for maybe a lot of Black Americans. So, what are some things that like MLS is doing or may have in the works that can bring that black audience to the game?
It's a great question, and one that I've been thinking a lot about. So I look at a partnership with the National Black Bank Foundation, right? It's first, it's good business. It allows us to have an impact in an area that I think is important in terms of closing the racial wealth equity gap. And so, if those stories are out there, right, it opens up a whole new audience for us, right? So it opens up an audience for people who follow Bernice King. It opens up an audience for people who are interested in what's happening in the financial markets. You look at the Juneteenth celebration, an artist like Judah Middleton increases the scope and opportunities of where we can tell stories outside of just the traditional soccer landscape. And then you look at what's on the horizon with a transaction and partnership with Apple and opportunities that we will have around storytelling and marketing. And we have just started to engage in some conversations with some storytellers and some creators. So stay tuned. Stay tuned on that. I think we have a tremendous opportunity to grow the Black soccer culture and community in this country. We're in dialogue with the Blacklist, which is an organization in the UK. Not sure if either of you are familiar with them, but they really have harnessed the power of the Black soccer community in the UK, and put on some pretty significant marketing and networking events. And we have some opportunities to do some things similar here. And if you have ideas, I'm all for them. I'm in the idea business, fellas. The
Oh,
best idea wins, and I have no pride of authorship or ownership. And if there are great ideas out there, I want to hear them.
oh,
And
we
I'm
have
I'm
plenty.
and I'm and
Trust me.
I'm and I'm and
Email
I'm
coming soon.
good, and I'm receptive to them, right? And then
Hmm.
how do we use channels like yours, right, and platforms like yours, right, to broaden our aperture and broaden our exposure. And so, we are open for business. That's what I like to say. We're open for business. I want people to know that. And we're open for ideas as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you have to go in a minute, but let's get into some quick fun stuff. Couple rapid fire
Okay.
questions.
All right. Let's
So
do it.
what is one interesting fact about yourself that most people wouldn't know?
One interesting fact about myself that most people wouldn't know, that I'm biracial. My father is both of my parents are deceased. My father, a black Pentecostal minister originally from South Carolina. My mother, a white Jewish woman from Queens. They met in high school, and had a love affair that lasted 13 years of marriage, close to 20-year relationship. Me and my that produced me and my sister, and most people don't know that.
Nice. Um, when you need to get into the work zone, I know you're a busy man, and a lot of things going on around you. Like, what's on your playlist when you need to like lock in and focus and work?
Yeah, so when I need to lock in and focus, I listen. I go for silence, brother. I and then I'll get to my playlist in a minute, but I meditate daily, and I'm rooted in my faith, and in allowing the spirit to guide the decisions that I need to make, and try not to interfere too much in that. And so I'm really driven by a sense of a shared humanity, our aspiration for Major League Soccer, at least through my lens, is to become a beloved soccer community. And I believe that we have an opportunity to do that. And so I try to find silence as much as I can, so that I can be still and listen to the spirit, and see how I need to flow from there. And then on my playlist, it's like it has evolved from hardcore hip hop in the 1990s to I'm really much more of a chill and mellow mellow music listener these days. So Erica Badu, I'll throw that on. I like to the commissioner has some playlists. I listen to his music sometimes, and my son is a burgeoning producer. He actually just got into Berklee College of Music,
Dope.
and I was listening to some of his beats last night, which I have to say, not just he's my son, he's definitely got flow and he's got flavor. So so when it
Nice.
comes to hip hop, I listen to what he's producing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice for sure.
hmm
That's great. All right, last one.
yeah.
So, like I said before, you're busy, working probably a lot. What's one of your favorite off work activities?
I think I just told you that. Yeah, I
All
just
right.
shared that, which in some circles, can make me probably some boring to some folks, but I'm not chasing excitement and I'm not chasing thrills at this point, in my life, that I really feel rooted in who I am, what we need to accomplish. My family, is the priority. I have a new baby, 1 year old, Kieran. So I have three sons. I have a 1 year old Kieran. I have an 11-year old ZJ, who I talked about at the top of the show, and 18-year-old Miles. And to see them thrive and prosper, with all the challenges are out here in the world today. That my job and my responsibility is to ensure that they have a happy and healthy life, and that's where I spend the majority of my time outside of work.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, my
love
son's
that.
name is Miles as well. So
Yeah, appreciate it.
Miles twins
Appreciate it.
there.
Yeah, appreciate it.
What you got,
Okay.
Amobi?
Nah, thank you so much, Shola, for taking the time. Is there anything that you would want the audience to take away from you mentioned the importance of family. Thank you for opening up and sharing your story, your career journey, all that. But is there one like takeaway that you would want the audience to, from your story, from what you do?
Yeah, to believe in yourself, and to know that things always unfold as they are intended to. I think often we get stuck in trying to make like the right decision, and often we just need to make a decision. And what we'll find out is that there was never an alternative, right? The decision, you can go back and forth 1,000 times. Should I choose A or should I choose B? Whichever one you're ultimately going to choose is the one that was meant for you to choose. And so
Mhm.
don't look back on your life with regrets. Um, uh, uh, stay present in what's going on in the moment, and don't allow your fears and frustrations to impact your decision making. And often we can allow that to. And so just show up and be your very best.
Mhm.
Show
I
up and
love
be
that.
show up and be your very show up and be your very best.
And if anyone wants to connect with you, I already know we're going to be sending a lot of emails about ideas, shoot your shot season. Um, but if anyone wants to connect with you, how can they do so? If you're willing to share that, if not, we
Sure.
can.
Feel free to email me, Shola, Sola.Winley. So it's Sola.Winley, Winley, at MLS Soccer. So 2S's, .com.
Most definitely. And Fortune is in the follow-up. He graciously sent out his contact information. So don't say you can't get to him. Get on your email. Make sure you reach out. But thank you so much again, Sola, for taking the time. We really appreciate you and all the stuff that you're doing behind the scenes and on the front lines. It's really amazing to see what you and MLS have done to help, push the culture forward. And we are happy to be involved and would love to connect with you in the future.
Well, fellas, I got to tell you first, thank you both for having me on today, and thank you for creating a space for us to have this conversation and just to talk about soccer and to talk about Black soccer culture. And thank you for what you're doing, and you let us know how we can help to continue to amplify what it is that you're doing. Right, this is a two-way street, right? And so you let me know how we could be supportive of what you guys are trying to accomplish. You guys plan to come out to All Star Minnesota or what?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll make it happen. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
We'll connect offline. But I'm serious. If there's ways that the league and me and my group can be supportive of what you guys are doing to get you guys out there, let us know. Okay.
Sounds
so let's
great.
make sure we keep connected.
Appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate you, fellas.
All right.
Take care. Yep. Be well.